Do you remember how hyped were people about Asus Zenfone Max Pro M2 at the moment of its announcement? Let's make a count. Not pricey, with a nice chip, gigantic battery, another bad camera, NFC and the notch. It was kinda a miracle for ones who aimed for a graceful middle-class phone. Or maybe the cake is a lie, as Max Pro M2 is a huge tangle made of compromises, understatements and other questionable solutions. Why do I think so, and should you go all in for this smartphone? It's coming right away. We'll begin as always with an appearance. In truth, here we are met, as they say, by a bolt from the blue. In exception to the front panel, the body is completely made of plastic. It upsets not only because the aluminum is presented in M2, which doesn't have Pro in its name, but also because this gloss in disguise is getting scratches and dirt insanely easy. In general, the body looks elegant, but it needs a proper care. So what's for is all that dressing up? I've got no clue. Of course, here's the positive thing. Without a metal, the device turned out to be light. It's even hard to say that there are 5000 mAh under the hood. By the way, I'll catch up with the battery later. The next, seemingly upsetting point is micro USB port. I would surely vote for Type-C, but for the sake of mini jack, I'm ready to charge my smartphone even through LTP. In general, for me, the micro USB is not the pain in the butt. How do you feel about this? Why won't you drop me a line in comments down this video? What was taken care of properly is a very thin cameras block, and yes, the ultimate card drawer where you can plug in 2 SIM cards and the memory card without some sticking chips over microSD and dusting off your old iPhone 5S for the second SIM card. Selfie camera, apart from its main task, knows how to recognize the owner and does it successfully both in a good light and under a dim lamp in the bedroom. The fingerprint reader is fast and furious. Seeing it in action now, you may argue about its speed, but the sound signal doesn't lie. The smartphone responds to the touch almost immediately. Before we jump onto the screen, I would like to say that its decisive advantage is the absence of flashing or blackouts in the rounded corners and around the notch. The screen itself is also pretty good. Not perfect, not the best, but good indeed. The colors are a bit more saturated than in common IPS panels. The picture has slightly cool temperature, but without comparing to other smartphones, it's impossible to feel these shortcomings. For the rest, it is a nice LCD with an eye-grabbing, not tiring picture. Getting to numbers, the display diagonal is 6.26 inches, the aspect ratio is 19:9, and the resolution is Full HD+. When up on tilting, the backlight becomes strongly reduced. The colors can barely become blue or yellow depending on the angle, but we detected no deadly scenes, for example like the dark color inversion. The brightness range is dancing around the word okay, but definitely not near the one, which is excellent. Its upper peak doesn't cause any questions in daily work. The lower one is acceptable for surfing the social media while on the bed before sleep, but for the darkroom it is set too high. The one who's responsible for the performance in here is Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 chipset. Adreno 512 for graphics is playing no dirty tricks, but the processor is not the same as usual. The standard max frequency for these chips is 2.2 GHz, while the one on Max Pro M2 has 1.95. There are some doubts about the fact that these 0.25 GHz will force you to buy a new smartphone earlier, but the fans of the omnipresent deception and conspiracy theory will found it enough to write an essay. As for the memory, there are 3 different versions: 332, 464 and 664. The experience says that it is not a flagship hardware for a penny, but you will surely feel comfortable with such a smartphone in your pocket. The software runs smooth and will keep the pace even after a week. If you are not a gamer, then you can set almost the maximum graphics in World Tanks Blitz and see no lags. If you're eager for more, I would recommend to pick the middle settings, because in 15-20 minutes the freezes will surely appear. After all, 660 is not the top-end chip, so you should not await for extreme performance from it. If someone being skeptical might give claims to the hardware, then only snooze owners of dodgy bricks can blame the battery. Its capacity here is 5000 mAh, which will keep the phone active for at least 1 day and a half, with usual of 2 and 2.5 days of active use. What to say, many bacteria live less than this smartphone discharges. The battery is definitely getting a respect point. Max Pro M2 has no problems with cell communication. There's NFC and even FM radio was brought in here, but Asus was not generous enough for dual band Wi-Fi. Well, that news has a bitter taste, but let's talk about the camera. To be frank, in front of us is not an alternative to the medium format camera, which shoots well slightly less than always, everywhere and under any condition. The main photo cannon doesn't have the widest dynamic range, the color colors in most images are a bit shifted to the faded zone. The clarity is winded up and it can be seen, but without aggressive noise cut, which is good. Let it stick to the label features of Samsung. The background blurring is standard here. It's neither strong nor weak, somewhat the same as every smartphone has. Sharpness is at an average level. Portrait mode is also included, it works fine, at least for people who use it once a month. Surprisingly, the front camera takes very decent, sharp and detailed selfies even under not ideal light, without making a clay out of the eyebrows and other messy stuff. The video has 4K quality and no time limits for shooting. And the wonderful news ends here. There is no stabilization, dynamic range is nearly the same as on photos, which is just okay. In general, in the video you see how heavy is the trembling from the shaking cold hands, just in case the clips in 1080p obtain some software stabilization. In headphones, Pro M2 sounds like almost every smartphone on Qualcomm chip, only a bit more crispy. He's the energy and a decent punch and boldly presented medium frequencies, nice level of details, but treble is cut, which is not what I personally like. It is also nice that the device doesn't have a problem with the maximum volume. When using in-ear headphones, 60–70% was enough for me. Despite all the trends, the speaker for multimedia content is only one at the bottom. I wouldn't say that it is the most pleasant one that could be installed in a smartphone, but in terms of volume it stands on a high position. In the end, its main task is not to let you miss an incoming call and a message. The software side of our guy is a pure Android with small additives from Asus, like an adjustment of the screen color temperature. In fact, there is nothing extraordinary in this firmware, as well as no generous piles of garbage that manufacturers love to add to the skin. Overall, that is another thumbs up from us. It is time to summarize. Asus Zenfone Max Pro M2 has a lot of minor flaws, starting from the cut processor frequency and ending with the plastic body. On the one hand, it is annoying, but on the other, if you don't go around the world in search of masterpieces but still need a smartphone with a good battery and NFC, you don't have many options. Among all sorts of semi-known names with MediaTek, the hero of today's review looks just like a water lily in the middle of the swamp. If you adjust your criteria list with a good hardware and a nice camera, you'll see that apart from Max Pro M1 and M2, there's basically no other choices. Yes, the latter one is more expensive, but hey, it has a better chipset after all. Long story short, although the device is not flawless, there's a wide range of heads who have been waiting for such smartphone for not less than a year. I'm sure that they will deal with the rough sides of this model without any heavy efforts. So this is it, and you will find the links to this guy in the description box below. If you like this video, hit the like button and also subscribe and ring the bell to stay tuned for more cool content. My thanks for watching and cheers!